touring, working in keyboard and drum pad as well as a violin. Always trying to find ways to incorporate musical instruments and stuff into the sets. It's always fun. Being able to be on a platform that I'm at right now where I get to be out playing shows and touring, and people who play music and have been wanting to play music come out to those shows and see that and go like, dang, I'm gonna go home and make music. That's my favorite thing ever, dude. Like the algorithm starts to demand content to keep pages relevant, and I think people take that far too much to heart, dude. Like you don't have to be doing all that. We were just in the green room in Pittsburgh the other night talking about state capitals, dude. It's been so long since I've thought about state capitals for anything. Like, man, I feel like I should know more of these living in this country. You know, where'd all the knowledge go from my brain? It was there.
Are you a music artist trying to find a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible? Then check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a super user-friendly and super easy-to-use service that will make your music available in stores like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, Snapchat, everything. Everything you could imagine, it's available. People will even be able to add your songs into their Instagram stories. DistroKid helps you with the distribution, monetization, and promotion of all of your music. Use the link in the description of this video for 7% off any DistroKid package you want. Pick from musician packages designed to help artists get their own music out there, or even get a label package where you can manage up to 100 artists from one profile. So that's more for like managers, labels, and you can also get the musician package that I mentioned earlier, which is more for artists, producers, things like that. It's super easy, and you can get 7% off any package right now with the link in the description of this video. So once again, if you're looking for a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible, I'm talking any platform you can think of, get DistroKid and get 7% off right now with the link in the description. Back to the program. My guest today is an experimental bass disruptor and violinist whose mix of sound design and symphonic instrumentation has found a huge fan base. He recently released the lead single to his upcoming EP and is currently on tour. Please welcome Josh T to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. About yourself?
I'm good. And I just wanted to know, like, obviously you have a great music career. You're on tour, going on tour soon. You've done the first couple of shows. But before that, you were playing professional basketball. What was that whole experience like, and what did you learn during that time? Or has there been any like tips or lessons that you've taken into the music career?
Sure. So the team that I was playing for in Hanoi in Vietnam was actually a semi-pro team, but
Okay.
yeah. Um, I don't know. I really wanted to pursue basketball as a career all through high school, and I think that in a way it kind of translates over in terms of the work ethic that it takes because like in this genre of music, it's really saturated, right? Like there's a lot of different artists and producers out there.
Yeah.
So you have to if you want to get to the top, or not necessarily the top, but to a point where you can do it sustainably as a career, you have to really plug away at it. And it was the same with basketball, you know, growing up, like so many like millions of kids want to play basketball growing up, and it's kind of just like a case of if you're not working, somebody else is. So you got to always kind of be grinding. And like it's I've been trying to get out of that mindset a little bit with music, but it's definitely something that was ingrained in me through sports and helped in the first couple of years, just like putting my nose to the grindstone and getting things done for a while.
Yeah, I definitely see it because like I wasn't ever to the point of like getting close to playing even semi-pro, but like when I was like a young kid, like probably up until like 13 or so, wanted to play basketball. Like being in the NBA was like the dream job, and it was
Yeah, me
really
too,
around
man.
that time. It was really around that time, like 13 to 15, that I sort of grew up enough to get a reality check and be like, okay, and realistically, I'm doing this a couple times a week, not every day. Like I'm not super tall. I'm not super skilled at any one thing. Like maybe it's time to like find something else. Um, but it's cool that you're trying to find more of like almost work-life balance with music and not try to like you said, put your nose to the grindstone and just like head down, plow through work. It's like it's definitely healthy to find a balance or something like that.
Yeah,
And
and I think that the point that we're at right now has been really good for that balance too. Like it's kind of like making me involuntarily do it, with being on the road so much the last couple of years. I'm not home enough to sit down and work on music, so it like makes me take a little break. It's good.
yeah, yeah. And I do promise most of this is about the music. I was just so into
Yeah,
learning
for
about
sure,
like your
man.
background and everything like that. And we see players like I mean obviously different genres of music, but like Damian Lillard, I mean Shaq, like players who had a career and were like balancing that with music at the same time. What sort of made you like choose one or the other rather than like try to do both at the same time?
Yeah, I think it was like you were saying, you had that like realization when you were younger that you had to probably find something else. Mine was also kind of at that point. Like, so I had fractured my elbow in the off season, like doing just like a pickup game. And I had some time to think about it. And I'm like, man, like I'm definitely not gonna make it to the NBA ever. Like I'm not at that level. And
Yeah,
I'm like, I could maybe like do Euro League after this, but I'll probably just be sitting on the bench the whole time. And then like with your athletic career, you have like maybe like a 10 to 15 year window if you really want to pursue it like that. And then you
yeah,
have to on to the next thing, whether that be coaching or something in that stratosphere. But then thinking of music as a career, I'm like, you can do that your whole life. You can just spend
yeah,
your whole life on that, keep getting better and better at it. And there's always more to learn in that. So I don't know. I think it was more of a longevity thing to me than anything.
yeah, definitely. And so you you make that transition, you start making music, like DJing, releasing stuff, you're growing a following, starting to get some attention. What going through that process, what tips or advice did you learn that you would give to like other people who are just now starting to try to produce their own music?
Man, there's so much stuff. The first thing that comes to mind though is something that I definitely learned firsthand and wish I could have gone back and done differently. But just because you make something doesn't mean you need to put it out when you start. I was so trigger happy with putting out music when I first started making it. I think like the first thing I ever shit out of FL Studio, I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna go post this up on SoundCloud. And I'm like, man, it's super fun. You got to really enjoy the process and keep making music all the time with it. But I don't think you should feel any pressure or any rush to put anything out until it's at a point that you feel like it represents what you want your art to be. It's like I
Yeah,
wish I had taken a couple of years to really hone in on my production game before I started putting music out. But I think a lot of people, or some people at least, like to go back through discography and kind of see the evolution through it. And I think that's
yeah.
kind of a cool aspect of having done that. But at the same time, I don't know. You could do it both ways, but I wish I had taken a little more time.
Yeah, and I think it's great advice, and I think like everybody takes it to some degree. Like I don't think there's anyone who's literally put out like everything they've made, but it is that sort of two arguments of like one, you want to sound good and polished, like do the things you're most proud of, and on the other hand, like have that authenticity of like, I've sure you could criticize it, say it sounds bad, but in the positive light, it shows my growth and shows that I kept learning and kept getting better.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
and so similarly, like when you start performing live and things like that, what was your first live experience like or live performance for music?
Man, so my first actual live performance for music, I was probably 6 or 7 years old, maybe, and it was playing violin in like an orchestra setting or doing solo competitions for bluegrass and stuff like that. So it was a lot different than obviously being 6 or 7 years old. You don't really think about like any societal pressure or expectations or anything when you're
Yeah.
playing music. And I feel like I got really conditioned through doing that like my whole childhood to like just kind of being used to playing music in front of people and like I don't know, I feel like I don't get very nervous or like get any crazy adrenaline rushes or anything from it now. It's kind of like clocking in, but it's
Just because you have so much experience from it now since you started off so young.
yeah, like once in a while I definitely get some like some bigger shows or festivals or something. If you step up and you see like 5,000 people out there, it's one of those like oh shit kind of moments. Like, that's
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
cool.
sure.
But yeah.
And
It's like
yeah,
it's probably my favorite part of the whole music thing. Like I'll never take that for granted ever, man. It's so much fun.
no, absolutely. Like there are artists and bands that I like who like on interviews have said that like, touring is their favorite thing or just shows in general, even like one-offs. And it's just so much fun. And it's like that, there's just something special about like being in the same place of like, whether it's people who are already fans of you and like you, or people hearing about you for the first time, but they are enjoying your music and what you're playing. Like there's just something that's like not replicated or found in anything else like that.
Dude, absolutely. And like you think about it, it's always a blend of those two, and then some more like people who've never even been introduced to this genre of music before at all, let alone my
Yeah.
music. I don't know, it's something really special to be able to see a whole room full of people, like the majority of whom may have not even met each other before or anything, and having everybody just get together and enjoy their time to my
Yeah,
music or
to like
anybody's
come
music.
together over one thing, which is you
Yeah,
and your
it's
music.
really special. It's a really special thing to be able to do.
Hey, if you're like me and you're interested in the YouTube or creator space, you should check out The Publish Press. The Publish Press is a completely free newsletter founded by YouTubers Colin and Samir. They host their own podcast talking to some of YouTube's largest creators. They've edited some of the best content I've seen on YouTube, and now they're sharing their knowledge about the YouTube space with you for free. The Publish Press comes out 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with everything going on with your favorite creators and platforms. And like I said, it's completely free. Just enter your email address to receive the Publish Press whenever it comes out, and that's it. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below, sign up to the Publish Press, and get all the info you need on the industry. You mentioned like starting violin from a super young age. How do you try to make a point of like implementing that in your music, or do you just like produce more naturally and whenever it comes up, like you just know that you have the ability to do that?
So what I've done to date, in some bodies of work, I'll focus on using the violin, and in some bodies of work, I'll focus on doing like strictly production and not recording live stuff as much. When it comes to the actual live sets, I'm always trying to incorporate instruments. Definitely get a lot of violin in there. On the new live tour, I'm working in keyboard and drum pad as well as the violin. So just always trying to find ways to incorporate musical instruments and stuff into the sets. It's always fun.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, and it makes it more engaging than like a true like DJ set where it's just like behind, the big console turntables. Is just it it adds another layer of like musicianship, or being able to like showing that you're using instruments and can play those instruments.
Yeah, absolutely. And like shout out to the DJs who are really about their craft, man, because I've seen some people get on a DJM and just treat it like an instrument. Like there's definitely some amazing DJs that come to mind. I am not one of those. I don't have that ability so much. So like sometimes when I'm mixing through tracks and I'm playing my live sets, I feel like I get a little bored in the middle part if I'm not doing blends or anything. I'm just kind of sitting there bopping. So
Yeah,
having
especially with like starting with something like violin, which is so, you need so much focus, and it's like such a precision based instrument. You're sort of always locked in the whole time, and so it's probably nice for you to have. I mean, it seems like you said, like it could bore you at times, but have like moments of rest where you can sort of just enjoy the moment and the music.
Yeah, but I like to use those moments to be able to work in the instruments and stuff too. So it's like it's almost like it's a fidget thing for me in a way. You gotta keep
Yeah,
myself
yeah,
busy
you have
while
like all these toys around you.
yeah, that's why I did the drums in especially because like I play violin for a good chunk and like I always try to be tasteful of where I play it in sets. Like I don't try to overdo it or anything. I try to be conscious of not overdoing it, which
Yeah,
usually means leaving it out of some drops and stuff. But then on those drops, I got nothing to do and I'm just kind of hanging out up there. I'm like, man, something else to fill the space would be great, and that's where the drum set idea came about.
yeah, yeah. And so I'm curious just as to like your creative process or how you go about songs. And you mentioned like sometimes it's using the violin, sometimes it's more production focused. Does that just occur and you take it as it comes, or are you like deciding, okay, this is more of a violin song, this is a like production project?
Man, so I don't really have a set way that I go about it. I mean, I have a template that I work out of in FL Studio, and that's about as repetitive as my process gets. It's just that I work out of that one template, you know? Like some days I'll be waking up in the morning with just like a random melody stuck in my head, so I'll hop in the DAW and like play that melody out and build something out around that. Or like some days I'll have a beat in my head, so I'll start with the beat and work out from there. And then some days it'll be like starting on sound design. Like if I just want to sit down and mess around with creating some sounds and doing some synthesis stuff, and then I'll work around that. So it all varies on the day, like whatever kind of mood I'm in when I sit down, what I want to start with. If I have any ideas already boiling in there.
Yeah, yeah, great. And is there one of those, maybe it's melody, speed, violin, is there one part of it that you're just like usually the most excited about or you just love every time?
Say again.
When you're like making the song, coming up with melodies, beats, like is there one part of a song that you sort of get the most enjoyment out of like coming up with, or the sound design? Like, is there one aspect?
Hmm. That's a good question. I really think my favorite part of it is once it's like started to take shape. You know, because you spend the whole time, if you think of it as like a
Yeah.
granite block with your ideas, first little ideas, just like chipping a little bit away from it. And then like after a couple sessions, once you like sit back and like start to look at how it's taking shape, and then you can kind of really make some more executive
You're like, oh, this
decisions
is
on
actually
it. That's
coming
my favorite.
along.
Yeah, that's my favorite point for sure.
Awesome, awesome. And is, I mean, like, I think every artist has some kind of story that's like this, which is uh part of the reason I like asking it when I have people on. But like, is there a song that you've released that either like you were really confident in, you're like, this is gonna be a hit, people are gonna love this, and it didn't do as well, or something you just like weren't sure about, kind of like tossed it out there and it ended up like blowing up?
Oh, absolutely. Like on Recurring Dreams, the last album that I put out, the final tune on that one, Zones of Reality, was probably my favorite song I've ever written. Like front to back, I thought it was just like chef's kiss, perfection. It did like diddly squat for streaming, dude. I was like, oh wow, okay. Yeah, I get that. People don't want to sit through like an orchestral cinematic banger. Sometimes that's fair. It's like a 6 minute long song, but then there was one that I kind of just threw together in a day or two. It was called Skinwalker's Jig, and it was just like a bass music tune. And I played a little violin over it, and I put that out, and that's still like one of the most streamed tunes that I've got.
Yeah, yeah,
So a little
it's
bit of both worlds.
yeah, like like I said, I think every artist has something like that. Whether they admit it or not. Like, and as much as you should maybe try to like not come up with expectations or goals in your head, I think it's just sort of inevitable.
Oh,
Just
dude, it's
like
part of it
sitting
for
with it
sure.
for so long, and so yeah.
Yeah.
And um, do you find inspiration in other artists or producers and whatnot, or do you like, and if you do, how do you balance that with like keeping your own sound and not just like imitating those artists?
Man, so I think drawing inspiration is a huge part of the creative process.
Yeah,
It's just a really important line that you can't let get too blurred, between uh, using elements of someone's style that you really appreciate and then just like really copying that. You gotta
yeah,
not toe that line ever. But I think there's a couple artists for sure that I've really as I've been working through music and on my production game, I've really appreciated the way that they do some certain things like Closey, especially her orchestral and cinematic compositions are really cool, and those kind of gave me the confidence to like you like that one song I was just talking about. Even though it didn't stream great, it's still one of my favorite songs I've ever written, because I got to do
yeah,
like all the orchestral composition and stuff in it, and it's so much fun, so expressive with that. And there's so many ways you can approach that one too, but I think it's like that, just like how some people do something that really defines their style musically that people haven't done before, like Charles the First, for example, too. He's a great example of that. Like before him, there wasn't really anybody doing the sound that he was putting out there. And since he came about, now there's shit, dude, probably hundreds, if not thousands, of producers out there that kind of produce stuff up that same alley, which is amazing to see that one producer can leave that much inspiration for so many people, you know?
yeah, totally. And it is, it's almost like the highest compliment in a way, like having uh leaving a legacy in that way of like these other artists or DJs, even though I might, you know, stop making music or eventually, pass on, like it's I've started a whole new sound and just like something that is gonna be remixed or have people come in and put their own style on it forever.
Yeah, to give people creative inspiration is like one of the best things that I think we can do with art, and being able to be on a platform that I'm at right now where I get to be out playing shows and touring, and people who play music and have been wanting to play music come out to those shows and see that and go like, dang, I'm gonna go home and make music. That's my favorite thing ever, dude. I love when people draw inspiration from my stuff, and I would assume it's the same for a lot of other artists too. It's a really cool thing to be able to pass on.
Yeah, yeah. And if there is someone listening who, you know, hasn't really heard your music or but now wants to get into it, I mean, it may be hard because you try all these different experimental styles, but is there a song you would recommend as like a first listen into Josh Teed?
Hmm. Now there is a question. Man, it's so hard to pick. There's been so much variance in my sound
Yeah,
over the years.
yeah.
It's hard to nail down one that would really define it. Um, I would say that Recurring Dreams is a great choice. Zones of Reality also, and probably Silk Road.
Nice, nice. And I think like you mentioned it, but it's hard to pick just one because it you have all these different sounds, and it's like I have artists on who are like they've said like, oh, I can't pick one because like it really depends on what kind of genre the listener or the person is like interested in, and I think it's sometimes a like I don't want to make it sound like work, but like a process of like just because you listen to a song by an artist, I don't think you should like shut it down and be like, no, I don't like that artist. Like I think not you
Oh
don't
my
need to
God,
like
yeah,
go out
dude.
there and hunt down a song, but don't just write it off. Like there could be a song of theirs that you love that you just haven't heard.
Yeah, that goes for so many artists, dude. Not quite in the realm of bass music, but have you ever heard of Sad Night Dynamite before?
I haven't, but that's a great name.
They make they make some sick tunes, but the variants they have in their music is crazy. Like they'll go from like psychedelic rock to rap to like pop. Like they're all over the place, dude. But it's so much fun. Like you could hear one of their songs and be like, no, this isn't for me. But then if you scrolled like to the next song in their discography, you might be like, whoa, this is it. This is sick, dude. I love this. So
That's
like
awesome.
absolutely what
I love
you
that.
can't just write it off after one song.
And I think there are artists now, especially like DJs and producers, like people like um Skrillex, Marshmello, who are like they make all kinds of music, or like are even just like straight up producers on songs that like you otherwise would never know that they worked on. And it's cool that they've reached a point now where they are just sort of doing whatever they want, and it's like authentic creativity that like they're not worried about, oh, is this gonna sell? Is this gonna do well commercially? They're just like, hey, I wanted to make this kind of song, so I made it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way to
And
go, dude. You
yeah,
know what it reminds me of sometimes, honestly? Are you familiar with Nicolas Cage's work at all?
yeah,
The actor, like, dude, he'll just take anything. He'll take whatever roles he feels like playing, and he seems to have a great time of doing it, you know? So I think he's kind of onto something there. Like if it's
mm,
something you feel like doing and you think would be fun, then pursue it and try something different every once in a while, man. It could be a good time. You don't have to just pigeonhole yourself into one thing.
yeah, absolutely. And so in that vein, like, what's sort of your goal with music, or what level do you want to reach? Is it something where you're like, hey, if this is sort of my career, my source of income, I'm happy, or are you trying to get to that like Marshmallow Skrillex level of like, big name, like headlining festivals?
Man, so I like you're saying, this is something I just want to be able to make a comfortable living doing
Yeah.
and to be able to pass on as much creative inspiration to the people around me that I can at the end of the day. I don't really care about getting crazy big or anything like that. I mean, at the end of the day, if I had to pack it all in right now and like call it quits, which I'm certainly not going to do, but like if that were to be the case, I could say that I've done everything that I set out to do and then some. So I think I would be happy with where it's at now, even. But just to see in the next decade or two how things go, I don't really want to set any expectations or any hard limits on it. Like I
Definitely.
don't
Yeah.
want to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
No,
don't want to
yeah.
blow up
There's
and
you
be
don't want
crazy
to.
famous or anything, dude.
Yeah, no. I get that, because like on the one hand, you don't want to limit yourself. You don't want to say like, oh, I think I can only get here, but also you don't want to like be disappointed with goals. Like, oh, I wanted X number of listeners by this point, and I'm not there yet. Like, I think you have the right approach of just sort of like,
Yeah, and I think
hey, let's
that's
enjoy
kind
the
of like
ride,
a
see where it
slippery
goes.
slope.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. I think that mentality is kind of a slippery slope because then I could see how you would find yourself doing things that you wouldn't typically do to, I don't know, elevate your platform in a certain way. Like, I don't know. I no hate on people who do like TikTok or all the reels and stuff, but like that's not really what I set out to do, and I don't really put too much of my time into it because I don't care about going viral or like social media following or anything, dude. Because like I've toured with a couple handful of people who don't really do the social media thing, but when they tour, they sell just fine. They make a comfortable living off of their music, and they're able to fully pursue their creativity. And that's what
Yeah.
matters to me at the end of the day, dude. Yeah,
And
I'd
it
rather
is
spend my time doing that.
it is a weird world now where like social media has like almost become part of being a music artist. Like it's rare now to find like a music artist or a band that doesn't have some sort of social presence, and it's almost like required that you're promoting or pushing yourself out there. And it's good on the one hand that like you're getting attention or getting word out about the music that you make, but also on the other hand, you're getting these stories of like people who have all the TikTok followers and things like that, but just can't convert it to like people spending money on a concert ticket to come and see you live. And it to me, and it seems like the same for you. It's like the live aspect is like probably one of the, if not the like most special parts of being a musician of any kind, whether that's producer, DJ, singer, like whatever kind of live performance you do, that's like really the thing that I feel like a lot of people look forward to.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely is. And I think like you're saying, it is a really weird point in time right now to be a creative of any kind in the social
Yeah,
media
yeah,
era, man. Like it's cool to be able to have that to promote shows and promote releases and things like that, and to let people know what you're doing, and people all across the globe can keep up with your music and see when you're putting things out, or if you're gonna be playing shows in their neck of the woods. But I think where it starts to have the obvious downside to me is where it starts to demand content. Like the algorithm starts to demand content to keep pages relevant. And I think people take that far, far, far too much to heart, dude. Like you don't have to be doing all that. You really
yeah,
don't.
yeah,
Um,
and
and I think
it's also like just adding to this whole like de almost like a desensitization um of what virality is in a sense. I had a singer on here a while back that we were talking about, like, you know, putting a video on TikTok and it gets like a couple hundred views, and for some people it's like, oh, that's nothing. But in my head, like, imagine standing on a stage having 300 people in front of you and speaking to them. Like that's a big crowd. That is like not nothing, and it's one of those things where like you realize it or you think of it and you start seeing it everywhere else. Because I said that back, and I think that was like December or something, or January. And then just literally yesterday, I was listening to a podcast and they talked about this concept of like relative zero, of like maybe it's a musician who like has a bunch of streams and they're like, what is your relative zero of like a number that if it happens, you're like, nobody listened to that. Even though it has however many streams, like what is your idea of nothing? And it's really weird how these numbers are so high nowadays because of social media and things
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
And
I'm
yeah,
sure it's really skewed.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially because you get to like these bigger of anything, whether it's like musician or just straight up like influencer or creator, and they're like, oh, yeah, I need a couple thousand, and I'm just blown away by that because that is insane to me.
A
Um,
lot of people, dude. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so of the live shows that you've done, is there any one moment or one show that you've done that kind of just sticks in your head as like a really cool moment, or something that you really just like enjoyed or let it soak in?
Yeah, absolutely. On my last tour in 2023, I played a show in Victoria, Canada, just like on the island off the west coast of Vancouver up there, Vancouver Island. And it was probably the most fun show I've ever played, man. And like I've never played in that market in a venue before. And we announced it and it sold out in weeks, which was crazy to see, like weeks ahead of time before the show. And like I hadn't had that happen before. So that was a really cool experience. And the energy there, and just to be somewhere that I've never played, but had so many people there that wanted to come out and I don't know, just really enjoy the music. It was really special, made for a really cool environment.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like it's almost a level of trust in a way, of like people who buy a ticket are saying, okay, I trust that this is going to be a fun, like entertaining show to be at, and I want to be there. And it's cool, like you said, that you found that in somewhere that you don't have experience with, or you're not like not that, again, back to like the whole expectations thing, like not that you're expecting it, but like in the case of like you probably weren't needing it to sell out or being like, oh, but I have some X number of fans here. Like it's just like a nice surprise that you got.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if you got sort of like a magical opportunity to make a song with any artist or DJ in the world, who would you want to collaborate with?
Uh, Man, tough. I mean, Hans Zimmer would be really cool to work with.
Yeah, yeah, that would
Yeah,
be awesome. I think that's one of the most like original answers, if that makes sense, that I've had on here, because that's sort of more, and it makes sense for you, but that's sort of more towards the like sound design, like soundtrack aspect that you're into. And I think that would, I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, but I think that would be such a cool collaboration of like sort of the score, like inspiration of Hans Zimmer and the sort of like bass DJ inspiration that you have.
yeah, man. And he's such a gifted composer and just like a brilliant musical mind. And I just feel like there's no way that he is in his career at some point not delved into making electronic music, you know, like so many of his scores
Yeah.
factor some really cool synths into the game and stuff. But like I feel like there's got to be some side project somewhere that Hans Zimmer is sitting on, just making bass music, you know.
Just like up with like the headphones half on, just going crazy. And um so I guess like how much do you get into like more cinematic soundtrack score music? Or is it just like just an interest in Hans Zimmer as a producer?
Oh, I definitely love a lot of stuff up that alley. My music taste ranges out a ton, and I probably attribute that to my dad, man. Because like some days growing up as a kid, you get in the car and he'd be listening to like some 80s rock, and then the next day in the car, you'll be listening to like Mongolian throat singing, and then it's just like everything in between.
Yeah,
So
I
I
don't
don't
know how
know.
I
I
get
think
through my Mondays without Mongolian throat singing.
it's a must-have, man. You ever heard of the Who? Like not the
Yeah.
rock band, the Who, other
Oh,
the Who.
no, no, no.
It's,
I was like, yeah, of
it's,
course. No, 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 no.
it's the eight. It's spelled HU, and it's like a Mongolian throat singing band, but they play with like a full band and stuff. They're sick. It's like one of my
Interesting,
dad's
interesting. Yeah,
favorites.
I'll have to check now. Um, and is with like such a like you're saying varied like taste in music. I'm just curious with like how into the music industry you are, as well as with, like we said, your background playing basketball and being an athlete. What are some just general songs, yours or other artists, that like make a great like hype up or like pregame playlist?
Dang, that's a good one. I'm gonna go on my Spotify right now and tell you.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's I don't know what it is. I've not this question, but just like in general, people would be like, what's like a song I should listen to?" Or and I like almost can't think of one. I'm like, I don't know. Let me look at my Spotify, because it's like I don't know what changed, but I feel like that's such a common thing nowadays, where it's like, what's the song you've been loving? And it's like, um, oh yeah, I really like this one. It's I don't know what happened, but like probably starting a couple
I think
years
it's
ago,
a
I
side
saw
effect of the
that happen to me
digitally.
a lot more.
Yeah, dude, me too. Me too. I feel like it's something to do with not having the music on hard copy, you know? Like you don't have to look at the titles of anything to find where stuff is. It's just right there. You can scroll through it.
Yeah.
It's a little different. But like for me, probably a lot of the older trap stuff, like uh there it
Bless you.
is. Yeah, thanks. Like Troy Boy, RL Grime, G Jones, that kind of stuff, Oski, even some of something's old stuff.
Awesome,
Yeah, I
awesome.
also Yeah, I also still, I don't know if I'm going to the gym or working out or playing basketball or something, I'll still listen to some rock from when I was a kid. Like, I don't know, I really love Linkin Park. That never gets old.
Classic.
Yo,
Yeah.
unfortunate. I was in Walmart the other day, right? And I just overheard these kids calling Linkin Park dad music, and part of me died inside.
No, that's definitely like I there's something so special about the music taste of people that's like when someone doesn't know an artist or insults an artist, it affects you personally. Like
Yeah.
I'm thankfully still young enough that I haven't really had that happen, but like
Oh, you'll
oh
get
my,
there. Don't you
oh
worry.
my, oh yeah, I'm sure I will. But like, we're so here's an example. Like fantasy basketball, we were starting it a couple months ago when like the season started, and I got Kevin Durant, and I made my team name Durant Durant as like a music pun of Duran Duran, classic, classic. Like everyone knows it, things like that. And I have a younger brother who just didn't get the joke at all. He was like, "What is that? You're just saying his name twice." I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, there are people who Duran Duran, Linkin Park, whoever it is, just don't like haven't grown up with these artists and bands.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to see the knowledge gaps sometimes. Like we were just in the green room in Pittsburgh the other night and talking about state capitals, dude. It's been so long since I've thought about state capitals for anything. I'm like, damn, man, I feel like I should know more of these living in this country. You know, where'd all the knowledge go from my brain? It
Absolutely.
was there.
I
It
could
was
probably
there.
name a
But it
solid
got me thinking.
3 to 5 off the top of my head. So, I'm at like 10%.
It got me thinking, like, maybe I should do some brain games or something, dude. I've been slacking.
Knew
But
those like
like,
brain teasers, New York Times games each day. Um, yeah.
yeah, it had
And
me think. Like, I've seen some videos online of like just people walking up and interviewing people on the streets, and like, there's been way stupider answers than I could ever fathom, dude. Like, I don't even like. Oh man, so I might not be the best capitals with my states, but at least I know that like Africa is a continent, you know, and not the capital
yeah,
of Mongolia or something. Like,
yeah. No, it's like seeing those on the street interviews always gives me a boost of intelligence and self-confidence.
dude, yeah, I saw an article one time that said 44% of Americans, this was out of a test of like 200,000 people they interviewed, thought that chocolate milk came from brown cows.
Oh my God. The marketing is working. All these images of like
Something is.
brown cows are making people believe in them. So like with um your music, you have I mentioned it in the intro, which like I'm having a great time, feels like forever ago. But you come out with your lead single, Just Breathe, from like an upcoming EP. You have just tell us more about that song, what into it, the background, anything you want to tell us about this upcoming EP in general. Yeah.
For sure. So when I set out to start this EP, I wanted to do something that was vastly different from the music that I've put out prior. And I feel like my goal as an artist is to always evolve, you know? Like I don't want to get stuck in doing the same thing. But this is by far the biggest step I've taken in that, or like the biggest step away from the direction of my prior music. And I just wanted to be able to work with more vocalists on it too. And growing up, I used to listen to Chewy all the time, who's the rapper that features on this tune. And I saw on Instagram one day that he was doing half price features, so I was like, shit, man, all
You're
right, I
like, I
gotta
gotta
do
get in on this.
that. Yeah, I gotta do that. And he came with probably some of the best bars that I've not just gotten to work with, but I heard on a track in a while. Like they hit me spiritually in a different way. Like he's got this one bar in it where he talks about how music drains away his ore at the same time saves my life. You know, like I've never felt anything harder than that before, dude. Like that's that one hits home for sure. And I was living in a spot out in Aurora, Colorado at the time, and my roommate slash landlord Logan happened to be a hell of a musician and singer also. And I was working on that. I'm like, man, it needs like one more thing to like really tie it all together. And it happened to just be her singing on that bridge, man. She really crushed it there and tied it all together. Um, One of my favorite artists to listen to is Jerry Folk. Like makes some vibier tunes, and his stuff's been an inspiration for a long time in my creative process. I've never put out anything that's up that alley, and this one is definitely a lot more of that sound than
Yeah,
anything
in
prior.
that style.
Mhm.
Nice, nice. And going forward, you have the tour and you have this EP taking it all in. What can listeners sort of expect from that or look forward to?
Yeah, I think they can look forward to a pretty vast array of different soundscapes from track to track. I tried to really keep them all within a similar theme, but really do some different things within each one of them as far as the soundscape goes. And also some really tight drum grooves in some of them. Like there's this one called Clarity in there. It's probably some of my favorite percussion work I've done. And even same on Just Breathe, the groove on that one's great. Uh, yeah, just a lot more percussion and melody focused and driven tracks as opposed to where it's been more sound design centric in the past, I
Mhm.
think is a great jumping off point.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm definitely just from like listening to a couple of your tracks while getting ready for this, like it's definitely we've mentioned it throughout, like this sort of variety you have in your music. I'm definitely excited to hear what's coming in this new EP, and it's cool to see that you're excited about it as well, or have aspects of it that you're looking forward to having people hear.
Hey, right on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. And so the last thing that I sort of want to do to start wrapping things up is a segment I like to do with people called Know Your Stuff, where I'm gonna just play like quick snippets of a couple of your songs, and it's one just trying to like name the song, and then after that, just like anything you want to tell us about what went into making it, the meaning of it, like anything we didn't get to in the interview, like feel free to speak on it or bring it up.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so the first one I have for you here is what was
that
that?
that one's zero gravity. That I made that tune right after I bought my Core Mini Log synthesizer. It was like the first piece of analog synth gear I'd ever gotten my
Awesome.
hands on, and I couldn't wait to get in the studio with it. And that was the first one that I came up with.
Yeah, it's like it's so cool how for music production in general, like different synths or keyboards, like it's almost like just a new wave of excitement to make something. I was watching like and it's obviously a different style of music, but I was watching like an interview with Charlie Puth in his studio, and he just has like a wall of synths, and he's like, yeah, sometimes I just like to come here and like play around with like different synths, like see what all the different sounds on them are. And it's like it's really like getting like a new toy on Christmas or something like that.
Yeah, a new synth or a new plugin, anything, dude. Yeah,
Oh
it's so
yeah.
much fun.
like and any like n- part of music production that can add something. All right,
Hmm.
and so the next one that I have.
All right. Hold on. I love that tune too. That one was with my buddy Alec Mindwalker and my friend Abby Weiss, who was playing the keys on the middle part of that. That was a really fun tune. Went
Yeah.
really experimental with that one for sure. The key change on the second drop was really, really sweet too. That was Alec's touch.
So with these songs, this is sort of going back into questions, but I'll just ask it quickly. And feel free to have a quick answer. But like for your songs, is there some indication you have as to whether it'll be like a solo song or to get other people on it, or is it just like as you're making it, you're like, oh, this would be cool to get someone on?
It really varies. Like sometimes I'll be working on a tune and get bogged down on it, and like I think I'll have good bones to the song. Like the elements of being a good track are there, but I just kind of run into a wall. Like sometimes in that case, I'll see if anybody wants to work on it also. Um, but sometimes I'll definitely cook up tracks with people in mind, especially with vocalists when I'm working with vocalists and I know somebody wants to work on something, I'll kind of put more thought into what I'm making for that. And yeah, sometimes I've just got friends and we end up wanting to make music together, so I'll go in there and start out something I think would fit pretty well with their style.
Yeah, awesome. All right, and then just the last song that I have for this segment.
Yeah, yeah, that one's in a bureau with Star Fox.
Yeah.
That's a bad tune.
That's one of the ones I'm listening to, and like just hearing the drop or like the bass in it, I was like, this is really cool.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, we so one of the cool things with being in the bass music community is that there's a lot of really fat sound systems floating around. And once in a while it's really fun to sit down and make a song that's like explicitly for playing on a big sound system. Like the sub on that one's meant to be played on something that's more than a club system, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, well, I mean,
Mhm.
those are all the questions I had for you today. So thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great time. We talked about so much, but where can people find you, your music online? Anything you want to shout out or promote? The new tour, go to get tickets to see Josh on tour. Like anything you want to promote, feel free to do it now.
Man, well, thanks for having me. It's been such a blast chatting with you, dude. Yeah, if anybody wants to find my music, it's just Josh Teed, Teed, and I'm on all the streaming platforms. I'm on all the social medias except for Twitter. Um, and I've got like one TikTok video on there, so don't expect too much. Uh, but yeah, I got all that stuff up there. And if you go on my Instagram or any of those other pages, I'll have my whole tour flyer and stuff up on there. So I hope to catch you on the city around sometime soon.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll leave a link to some of that down below. And thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.